Welcome to Inside the Game on the National Soccer Network. Now, here are your hosts, Jonathan Turner and Nathan Wangler.
From Lake the Shining Lake, we are back live, episode 192, Inside the Game, live on the National Soccer Network. Nate Wangler alongside Ryan Glinsky today. No Jonathan Turner. He will be at the U.S. men's national team matchup tonight. They're friendly against Uruguay, however you pronounce it. But that is going on tonight down in Florida, the last international friendly for this U.S. men's national team until 2026. So this is it for 2025. Second time he's been to a game. Obviously, the last time you guys went, it was you and him to go watch them play Japan when they got that 2-0 win in that friendly. But now another big one here against Uruguay tonight. Lot to talk about, lot to catch up on. Your comments have been rolling in on social media. We've seen a lot of that specifically on TikTok. So we got a ton to get to in that regard. Just a quick reminder to everybody watching the show, find us Nat Soccer Network or Nat Soccer Network TV on any of your social media. We're live here on Roku and YouTube TV today. But Ryan Glinsky, it is an exciting stretch of games. Obviously, we had one over the weekend, but a big one coming up tonight for the U.S. men's national team. And you and I were chatting about it coming into the show. This is one of those USA-only days. This is one of those red, white, and blue days where we just talk about this national team. America! Because lately they've been giving us a lot to talk about. And one player in specifically, Gio Reyna and everything, but today just seems like a USA day for us.
Yeah. Sorry, John's in the TikTok chat. He said good morning.
Chat already?
Yeah.
Good morning. Hello. What's
good
up,
morning to you too, John. Enjoy the day down there. I'm sure it's warmer than whatever it is here. But yeah, you're right. You're right, Nate. USA Day, in fact, it's a big game, and this is, if you kind of looked at the most recent windows, this is probably the most important game. And I know we don't have our top talent, and, Uruguay doesn't have some of their top talent as well. But, again, another World Cup team. Ecuador's a World Cup team. Beat them. Paraguay, they're a Paraguay World Cup team. Beat them as well. Australia, I don't know if they're in the World Cup yet or not. Probably not. But I know New Zealand is not Australia, but this one, Uruguay game. And you think of the group, the grouping for the draw that takes place on December 5th. You think about how our group is going to stack up. We're probably going to be in pot 2 in terms of the second seed in our group. And right. Uruguay could be a 2 seed, probably a 2 seed team, maybe a 1. And you kind of think of, this is kind of like the bar that we need to get to. Not saying Uruguay is this massive power and they're going to go on to win the World Cup, but John is saying from 39,000 feet above. That's how far he is up right there. Man, you're way up there, John. Make sure you get down safely. But you think of this as the test of getting to what this team ultimately wants to get to. They want to get to a quarterfinal. You will probably have to come across a team like a Uruguay. And I think this is a good test. It's not our top talent. It's not their top talent. But if they compete well, they lose a 1-0 game, a 1-goal game, I'm not mad. But the way it looks is what I'm really kind of just looking at.
Yeah, and I think in especially with it being your last one in 25 before we go into 26, I do think it very well could be a measuring stick game for this team. Also, keep in mind Uruguay has a World Cup. Now, mind you, that was a while ago, but this is a country, this is a team that does have one of those. They do.
I don't think we were even a thought back then. I don't even think our parents were born
back then. That is true, but it counts just the same. But you're right, and this is a top 30 team, and I think I found it interesting when you mentioned it yesterday, and we'll get more into this coming up. Second segment, we'll give our biggest focuses, what are our 3 biggest keys for the U.S. men's national team tonight. Then, as I mentioned, we'll get into the mailbag as well. We got about 8 million comments, so I think we'll be able to fill up. We could fill up probably 2 hours with just comments alone, but we'll make sure to touch on those. But I do think it was an important distinction that you made yesterday when you said that we're playing World Cup teams. Like, we're beating World Cup teams. That's an important thing to keep in mind. Like, I know that, and I just think it's interesting when we beat those teams, immediately it's like, well, it's not one of the powers. Okay. But, like, you have to start somewhere. And if you're beating teams that are in the World Cup, at least you're beating teams that you might face in group stage to get into the knockout stages. I think it's a good mark for the U.S. men's national team. The other important thing is they're 4-0 against their last 4 World Cup teams that they've played, right? So our biggest complaint about Mauricio Pochettino and this team for the longest time is they couldn't win games. Now they're starting to win games, maybe a little bit more meaningful. I understand that they're friendlies, but I do think you're right in terms of Uruguay is probably the benchmark. That's probably somewhere that we want to get to, because they are a competitive team most years on the international stage.
Yeah, this is what we need. We need to. I mean, I don't care if we're playing like the teams in the Gold Cup outside of Mexico. You know, whether you want to take, well, we had our B team, C team, whatever it is, and we had MLS guys. You know, Chris Richards was there. I didn't really care for that tournament for really. I guess I cared for winning to beat Mexico because, you know, it's a chance to lift the trophy, time to slap little bro around in terms of Mexico and El Tri. Outside of that, I didn't really care for the other games. We killed, what was it, El Salvador, Guatemala, where Luna scored 2 goals. Like, yeah, that's good for the players that are out there, but in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't really matter. And these games are what matters. Well, we saw Haji Wright kind of. That's one of the takeaways. You know, sneak peek, a little tease there. He's one of them. Mm-hmm. Where he scores 2 goals against Ecuador. Whether you want to rate Ecuador or not, that's up to you. But this is a World Cup team. They qualified for the World Cup, and this is who we need to beat. And at the end of the day, we're gonna let's go back to 2022. Who was in our group? We had England. For some reason, we always get England every single year. Iran and Wales. The England game, that matchup, again, we got a point out of it. I didn't think anything of it, or in terms of what the result was going to be. What I cared about was the Wales and the Iran game, because those are the 2 games that you should be winning, and kind of those swing games if you think about it in terms of the group. Win those, and you're going to come up against a team like an Ecuador, like a Paraguay in the group stage, probably as that 3 seed, not a 4 seed, but probably like that 3 seed, that you have to go and win that game, which gives you a step up in the group regardless of what you do against the 1 seed. So beating teams like a Paraguay, beating teams like an Ecuador and Uruguay, whatever you want to talk about it, but you have to beat these World Cup games or World Cup teams, and that's what you get with some of these victories in some of these games. And I thought the Paraguay game, you know, with everything that happened, I liked it. The way they did against Ecuador, the way they responded, I liked it. So yeah, that's been the biggest knock of Pochettino. But you know what? He's been winning against World Cup teams in the last couple of windows, so I can't really hate it.
We've been showing off our depth a lot, too. And I thought, obviously, Gio Reyna added to that and, again, created more question marks, which is a good thing in his way, because that means he might actually have a chance to make this team. Obviously, he'll be back in the mix here tonight. But that's coming up on segment 2. We're going to give you our big 3 takeaways, or not takeaways, our big 3 keys for the U.S. men's national team tonight as they take on Uruguay. And then in our third segment, we'll reach into our questions, our mailbag, if you will, from all of our fans on social media. But that's coming up on segment 2. We'll give you a breakdown. Look at our keys when we come back here on Inside the Game.
Experience the thrill of the game like never before with NSN's Game Rewind.
Dive into full match commentaries enhanced with cutting-edge dynamic graphics,
letting you relive the highs and lows of your favorite matches in astonishing detail.
Whether it's a championship win or a legendary play,
NSN Game Rewind bridges the past and future with a broadcast experience designed to captivate.
Call 586-304-4405
and start watching today.
Episode 192 of Inside the Game, back live here on the National Soccer Network. Nate Wangler alongside Ryan Glinsky here today. No Jonathan Turner on this episode. Planning on joining us again tomorrow, but again, he's at the U.S. men's national team game here tonight. Talked about the last time you guys went, woo! You guys got a lot of good video, a lot of good audio, a lot of good stuff to use. And that, obviously, that win over Japan, another important one for them here tonight. But going into segment 2, Ryan, our biggest keys for the U.S. men's national team here tonight. We can kind of just go back and forth if you want, but I'll let you open up the conversation. What's one of your biggest keys that you're watching for?
One of them is going to be Haji Wright. I want to see him play in this one. And we talked about yesterday of, can Gio Reyna do it in multiple games? Can he do it at a sustained level? And I want to see Haji Wright now. 2 goals against Ecuador. He's been playing well for Coventry City over in the championship over in England. And I want to see him do it again in a slightly better team than Ecuador in Uruguay. So I want to see Haji Wright kind of be that target man up there, be strong on the ball. Because, all right, South America, you know kind of how every region, you know, in terms of sports, like kind of has their own playing style, whatever sport it is. Like, Midwest teams in football, and they're a little bit tougher. They like to run the ball a little bit more. Their tight ends, they usually produce D linemen, O linemen, all that fun stuff. You go down south, that's where all the sexy positions are, the wide receivers, the corners. In South America, it's very physical, very brutal, and then they also play, some of them are really skillful on the ball. So there's that. But it seems like physical, maybe some cheap shots every now and again. Maybe they leave a foot out to cleat someone in the ankle. And I think that we could use a Haji Wright in this game in terms of being that target man. I know there's a couple center backs that they have, Araujo and Ugarte, who play for Barcelona and Manchester United over in Europe there. There's some physical center backs. And I would like to see Balogun as well, but I think most importantly, I'd rather see Haji Wright be a target man, receive the ball with his back to goal, try to distribute out wide to whoever is Aronson, Luna, Reyna, whoever is out there in this game. But I want to see Haji Wright be the target man and be as aggressive as he was against Ecuador. I thought he was really aggressive in that game, driving the ball forward, picking the ball up, a little bit in the final third and driving forward, making those darting runs. And that's what I want to see. Haji Wright is one of my keys.
And which striker is going to step up and play a key role tonight? I mean, I thought, listen, I think Flo Balogun has impressed me more than a lot of anybody else on this team in terms of his ability to score goals. He's just been, I think he is our number one striker. I know you've mentioned obviously playing Christian Pulisic middle when he comes back from his injury, and I still think I love that idea. I love putting him in the middle and giving him a chance to be that guy, but I think Flo Balogun has been great. Haji Wright obviously impressed in that game. Is someone else that I'm thinking, and as we get closer to the World Cup, now you're really starting to talk about like trimming the fat. And I think that's where the whole like question mark when it came to Gio Reyna and where does he slot into this and how late in the game this is. It's because of just how close we are, right? This is our last international matchup until 26. I think you said until March, right? So March,
Usually.
April, May. Yeah, usually. So March, April, May, June, right? So that's that. All of a sudden, you're down to 4 months until the World Cup. So there are certain particular players that I'm looking at. Now, that's not going to be all my top 3, but one player that I wanted to mention that really just needs to impress, at least needs to impress tonight because we didn't see much out of him over the weekend. But that's Sebastian Berhalter. And I know we've talked about obviously the nepotism in the last name, and does the U.S. men's national team feel like they need to play him simply because of his last name? But I think we fail to realize just how heavily that Mauricio Pochettino has relied upon Sebastian Berhalter throughout the course of this summer in the Gold Cup. Obviously, we saw that a lot in leading them to that game against Mexico. Obviously, didn't do much in that, and he did okay in the Gold Cup. But now, obviously, coming back onto the team for another camp here in November and trying to fight for the opportunity to do so. Now, should Mauricio Pochettino decide to play a 3-man midfield, he has shown that he can play on the right side, and he did assist on a couple of goals in that Gold Cup. Whereas, if there was a 4-man backfield, he would play in the middle. But the sheer number of midfielders available for the U.S. men's national team means he has to stand out. And that's where, if we're talking about a part of the field where there's some real sorting out that has to be had and some decisions that have to be made for Mauricio Pochettino, That's it. Because outside of Berhalter, you have Roldan, you have Aiden Morris. You've talked about Tanner Tessman and just how important it is to see him really put on a display. And I think he has a legitimate shot of being a significant contributor. But you also have McKinney, Musa, Cardoso, who are among the European talents that are absent in this as well. And I think we talked about Weston McKinney not being on this website, not to mention Jedi Robinson. So, there is a, if we're talking about depth, the midfield is where I'm like, Sebastian Berhalter has to do something to separate himself. Otherwise, there are going to be a lot of U.S. men's national team fans that are going to start asking questions about why is he on this team? Why is he here? He has to keep showing off that pinpoint delivery because I know he's an all-star in Major League Soccer, but we need him to be an all-star in the red, white, and blue in order to think that he's going to have a spot in that 26 World Cup. So what does Sebastian Berhalter do tonight? He's one of my focuses. But what's your number two?
Yeah, you're right. I like the all-star in the red, white, and blue. I like that. The way all-star in the MLS doesn't really mean anything in the grand scheme of things. So all-star in the red, white, and blue. I like that. And my apologies. 2 goals against Australia, not Ecuador for Haji Red. I don't know why I said Ecuador. JT put in the chat, this is one of my other keys. The 3-4-3 formation, it was a little different against Paraguay. It was a 3-4-2-1, I think, because Reyna and Aronson were underneath Balogun, I believe. But the 3-4-3, that seems to be the formation that has worked really well with Pochettino. He kind of figured that out in I think it was the Japan game. I know that window, but I think the Japan game specifically, I know they kind of went to that 3-4-3, and everything kind of seemed to flow a little bit better, I thought. And they had so in American soccer, everyone kind of says it is, you kind of look at more like the women's national team as well, that they're really good athletes, and that's why the women's team was dominating the world game for such a long time, is because they have athletes and they don't play a pretty brand of soccer. And that I can kind of agree with, but disagree at the same time. I thought as the years have gone on, the USA has kind of been a little bit more technical than they've gotten better technically wise than anything. Yeah. And so the U.S., I would say, as a country, I would say has the best athletes of all out of anything. Like, I'm just saying pure athlete. I'm not saying soccer player. I'm not saying basketball player, football player. I'm saying pure athlete. I think we have the best in the world at anything. And I think in the 3-4-3 formation, you can allow some of our athletes to be athletes, if that makes sense. In terms of the wingbacks, I think are really good. Like, you think of a Tim Weah, great athlete, really fast, really good on the ball, but he's so fast, so quick. And then you think of Arfston, for example. Really, he's thriving in that wingback role. I'm not saying he's the greatest athlete, but he's thriving in that wingback role. Think of Serginho Dest. He's been thriving in a wingback role. I think the wingbacks they provide a little bit of that cover, but at the same time can jump in the play at the same time to help us in the final third. And I think the 3-4-3 formation has been integral to the U.S.'s success since September. Think of the last window where they get a draw and a win, and then so far this window they have a win, and then back to the Japan window they get a win. Blanking on who they played before that, but Japan, they get that win. And I think the 3-4-3 formation so critical for us, and especially when we play against the better teams like in England, like in Germany, who I saw yesterday 6-0 against Slovakia. Whew. That was a great performance. And France, Spain, all those teams that are better than us on the ball, I think that 3-4-3 formation can change things up a little bit. And that's what I want to see yet again from this team. I don't know if they will go to a strictly 3-4-3 just because of the players that they have out on the field and in this window, but I want to see a 3 at the back at the minimum, and I think that could help with some of the Uruguay attacking players.
I want to... My second key on this, and it kind of goes back to what you said to begin this conversation about the physicality of the Uruguay team that they're going to be playing here tonight, and just how much they're going to bring it in that regard, and how much their backs are really going to, having a target man, I think was the word that you used, and having Haji Wright kind of in that position.
Yeah.
We saw this against Panama, and initially coming into this show, we were going to use this as like a whole segment in and of itself, because I saw a lot of pundits and a lot of people talking about this specific situation that happened in the Paraguay game. We're not going to talk about that specifically. We're going to bring it up in the later segment, probably in our mailbag segment. But the brush up, the fight at the end of that game in the 84th minute, right? The U.S. has a throw-in. Paraguay starts, a couple of cheap shots, guys fighting over it, and all of a sudden that draws a crowd, and now we have a brush up. Oh, look at you with the graphic. Wow. My man is on top of it. Woo!
The one thing that I made from yesterday that translated over.
Brawl breaks out after Alex Freeman and Paraguay's captain Gustavo Gomez get into it after throw-in disputes. Exactly what it is. Nobody was given a red card or a game suspension after the fact. Matt Freese and Tim Ream broke out and said they loved the fight from the team and how they backed up their teammate. Pochettino mentioned that he didn't like it and that it was a dangerous situation. Well, of course, Mauricio Pochettino doesn't want his guys fighting shy of a World Cup. I would understand that. I'm sure, things got a little tight up in the collar area when he sees his guys on the ground in that situation. But for the players themselves, right, I go back to that Australia game and I go back to what Chris Richards said after what they did to Christian Pulisic and how they were kind of targeting him in that game. There was a feeling of just they were a little cheesed off, if you will, with the way the Australians played against them. And so I think a lot of that frustration kind of carried over into this matchup. But again, the mentality of where we're playing these games matters. Right. Okay. It's one thing if I'm going into Mexico City, right? I'm just going to put myself in the coach role here, the manager role. If we're going into Mexico City, I probably don't want my guys doing that if we're playing against Mexico on the road. I want my guys to keep their cool. I want my guys to be cool, calm, collected, walk away, nothing, silent treatment, brush it off the shoulder, water under the bridge, all that good stuff. Like that's what I want in those hostile environments. But if they're coming here, right, and they're going to play on our soil, in our stadiums, in our places, right? We talked about this. Like, if you are a soccer fan in the United States and you talk about soccer, even the fact that I just called it soccer, right? A lot of people don't respect you. They don't respect you. They don't respect the way you play. They don't respect the way you talk. They don't respect where you're from. And there's no greater pleasure in their mind, and I speak for this on the Morocco fans' side, there's no greater pleasure than beating the United States, let alone beating them consistently. So do they match fire with fire tonight? If Uruguay is going to try the same things that we saw out of Australia, the same things that we saw from Panama late in that match, are they going to fight fire with fire? Because I love to see it. I love to see that mentality side of the game because that was the biggest cornerstone of our conversations when it came around this team, especially in the Gold Cup, especially after the Nations League with that embarrassment against Canada and Panama. We're like, there's just no fight in this team. There's no fight. There's no juice. There's no oomph. There's no any of that. Any of that. We're finally starting to see that. And I think it's worth mentioning and not patting ourselves on the back, but at least acknowledging that this team, they got a little bit to them. So do they respond to that again tonight if Uruguay tries to get under their skin? Because at the very least, from a cultural perspective, I love seeing that fight. And I talked about it on social media, and I think there were a lot of people that agreed with that. We need to continue to see that. Because they're fighting on the field and they're fighting off the field. If you're winning games, then I'm cool with it, right? If you're down 4-0 in that situation and now we're getting into all this, it's like, all right, you had the whole match to do something, you didn't do anything. So I want to see more of that if that becomes a trend tonight.
Yeah, I would say in terms of the respect, I think respect is earned on the field. But yeah. I don't necessarily know if fighting earns people's respect, especially in the game of soccer.
Yeah, right.
But you got to get wins. You got to get results, and they kind of had a Gordie Howe game. They win a game and then they get into a fight afterwards. I know it's not the quite Gordie Howe hat trick with the fight, a goal and an assist, but they win the game. They score a couple goals. Some people got an assist, and then JT just landed.
I hope you gave the pilot a round of applause, too. He deserves one.
Yeah, John, did you stand up on the plane and just start immediately applauding?
Yeah!
Yes, America!
Aviation. Hell yeah.
What were we talking about? Oh, that's right. Respect on the field. Yes, I agree with you with the fight and everything. And we talked about this is what I said in my TikTok video, which make sure you're following us. What I said in my video is again, I don't know if you've been reading or anything, but whenever the Clint Dempseys of the world, the Tim Howards, the Landon Donovans of the world, whoever it is, they like to mention that, you know, when we were playing, we were tough to beat, and we had an identity, and we were just tough. Like we get into scraps. You don't know where I'm from, dog. Like all that stuff. And they talked about how this generation, currently the U.S. generation, has been lacking it. And I thought, you know what? They showed a little bit of fight today. It was over something stupid that wasn't even needed to begin with. Like, it's a throw-in. Just take the throw-in. Like, it's not that difficult. Like, you're just fighting for the ball. Whatever Gomez is doing, dumb, and then he puts his hand up. Yeah, dude, you're just soft. Anyway, it wasn't even needed. But what has been their knock? How we talked about Pochettino, his knock of, you know, they can't win those big games. The knock on this current generation is they're not tough. They don't stand up. They don't make life difficult for the other teams. I'm sorry, when Alex Freeman gets into a fight and then the whole team and then the whole bench comes over to defend this guy, I like it. And that's showing a little bit of fight on this team. And I'm not saying they have to get into a fight every single game to show that they're tough. I'm just saying, show a little bit of fight, and they did that. And they defended their teammate. And Tim Ream, Matt Freese, they loved, like as I mentioned, they loved it. I don't know the exact quote in front of me, but someone said, to be diplomatic, I loved it. I think that was Freese, I think. But I like that. I like the way that they fought, the way they defended their teammates. It shows that they're a cohesive unit, and they'll defend their brother every single time. By the way, John says, good stuff, gents. Have a fun day down there in Tampa, John. Crush it down there, and have fun at the game. Maybe get some cool videos. You know, maybe some interviews.
Maybe get some apparel, dude. Maybe, you know, buy me a hat or something. You know, that'd be cool.
If there's a golf ball, I want a golf ball. I have a golf ball collection.
Him a golf ball, give me a hat with like the shield, like the U.S. soccer shield on it. That'd be sick. That'd be sick. I got it. Get another Gio Reyna. John says he's auditing this show. Get another Gio Reyna scarf. Yeah, heck yeah. Let's go. Gio Reyna scarf.
So last time we went to the Japan game, John bought
just get a signature from Gio Reyna, please, and then bring it back. There you go. Yep. Tell him he's your favorite player, John.
Gio Reyna, you're my favorite player.
You're my favorite
of all time.
You're the guy from the podcast.
Yeah, Gio sees him and just immediately goes, I know what you said. But anyway, no, when we went to the Japan game, John bought a scarf. Yeah, that's exactly what John just said. He goes, I wanted a scarf and I got a Reyna one on accident. When he bought it, the other side said Gio. I'm looking at it right now on our scarf wall. It says Gio Reyna #7 with the USA crest on it. And I was like, this is Gio Reyna on it. And it was hilarious because he didn't realize that it was a Gio Reyna scarf.
It was meant to be, man.
It was just meant to be. It was just meant to be. But my third key of the game is the man we were just talking about, Gio Reyna. I want to see him again. We talked about Haji Wright, how we need to see him, or how I need to see him see him a little bit more. And we talked about yesterday that we need to see Gio Reyna a little bit more. Can he do it for an extended period of time? Can he do it? Can he play well? And I want to see him again tonight. I know that, you know, in these windows, they might mix around a couple of players. You know, maybe half the lineup that started the first game won't start the second game. You know what? Let's give Gio Reyna another start because I want to see him again. I want to make sure that this isn't just fool's gold. This isn't just, you know, I'm back, you know, of everything that just happened. I want to prove JT wrong. He says, you're going to see him. He's on the roster. Yeah, I would hope so. I hope we'd see him. But anyway, I want to see Reyna again tonight. I want to see him be creative again. I want to see him in the same role that he was in the middle there underneath the striker. I want to see that again. If he plays out wide, I know we probably won't see him as much. But I would like him to go. I would like Pochettino to go to the at least a 3-back with 4. I think him getting point is critical, not a goal, but at least an assist. Oh, so he's saying at least be involved with a goal. John, that's what John's saying. Yeah, I would say that's 100% right. But no, I would love to see Gio Reyna be a part of another goal, be as aggressive as he was, taking like he'd pick up the ball at midfield and just drive forward 20, 25 yards and try to create something. And I want to see that again from Gio Reyna. I want to see that fluid play where he just kind of doesn't really give a you-know-what out there, and it's just being himself and creating stuff. So that's what I want to see again from Gio Reyna. So my 3 keys: Haji right start, 3 back at the minimum, and then Gio Reyna's got to start as well.
I said this yesterday. I feel like when you just, and maybe there's something to this, when you just let Gio be Gio, I feel like the kid has the ability to make special things happen. And I think that's what Mauricio Pochettino is trying to do. And there are layers as to why this is his final chance. I think, number one, I think we talk about the depth of this U.S. men's national team. It's not like how it used to be. I know I mentioned Claudio Reyna yesterday, and someone immediately hopped in the comment section and said, well, those teams that Claudio Reyna played on were not as good as these U.S. men's national teams now. And I'm like, well, yes, obviously
they made a quarterfinal.
Yeah, they did. They were gutsy and they got there, but the depth was not what it is now. And so when you look at, who did they not call up? He doesn't have to compete. Gio Reyna, this is with the likes of Malik Tillman. He doesn't have to deal with Tyler Adams. Again, we already talked about Weston McKennie isn't here. So that, again, highlights just how important it is and how the focus really is on Gio. And obviously he impressed in that one game, but with 146 Bundesliga minutes, this was really kind of the ramping up for him to this big opportunity in front of him. But also, how does he move with everybody else on the pitch? I thought he looked really good in that one match, but we talked about Sebastian Berhalter earlier. We know about the conflict between the two families. How does that relationship look? Has Gio emerged from that? Are they getting along well? I think that's a really important thing. But I don't. We have to see something from him tonight. And I think it's interesting because JT talked about it the other day. Does he take a step back in this matchup? And the hardest thing for Gio is this. You have 2 games. Okay, you couldn't compete in the Gold Cup because you were hurt. We didn't see a lot out of you out of the Nations League. To be fair, we didn't see a lot out of anybody in the Nations League. That was just a complete embarrassment for this U.S. men's national team. You have 2 games to impress. I thought with the one that we saw against Paraguay, he put himself in the conversation, but with something similar here tonight, if he shows that he can continue to be one that can move the ball forward creatively, he can create opportunities, whether that be for himself or anybody else that's around him. You go from being in the conversation to all of a sudden now we have to start thinking about shifting things around in order to accommodate for someone like Gio Reyna, who I do believe is kind of going through a renaissance in his career right now. And I think it's important to mention that he has a lot of backing in that way too. I talked about the importance and the willingness to have a little bit of grace in my recap video after they beat Paraguay, and how, everybody deserves a second chance. Criminy. Everybody deserves a second chance. I screwed up. You screwed up. Everybody screwed up somewhere along the way. And so, I wouldn't be sitting in the chair that I'm sitting in right now. I wouldn't be talking to you if it wasn't for second chances. Dead honest. That's just what it is. I screwed up at 18. You're 18. Like, that's a part of growing up. And it's especially when you grow up with the pressure of having to live up to what your father was. Now, whether or not you thought he was overrated or he wasn't the greatest in his position, whatever, that's fine. But there's still a lot of expectations that come along with that. And so that obviously sidetracked him, but I still think he has a lot to show us. I still think he, in terms of who everybody's looking at tonight, Gio has to be far and away number one, the biggest focus on this team.
Yeah, I agree with you. And the hardest thing is you talked about he's got 2 games. The hardest thing is trying to replicate that. He had such a good performance, and anything less than that, people might see as a bad performance just because of what they saw on Saturday, and that's not necessarily fair to say. If he plays well, he plays well. If he doesn't live it up to what he did on Saturday, like score a goal, and to John's point in the TikTok chat, if he gets a goal or an assist, as long as he's involved in the goal, I think that's the most important. And to his dad's point, or to your dad, or Claudio's point of living up to your dad, that's a tough thing. And he was the captain of the team that's made it the furthest in the 21st century of making the World Cup, and that's a quarterfinal. I was actually just looking at like what the U.S. has done in the World Cup. So 1930, the first one, they made the semis. Later recognized as third place. 1934, round of 16, they lost. 1950, lost in the group. And then from 1954 all the way to 1986, they did not qualify for the tournament. And then ever since then, it's just been group stage, losing the round of 16, and then, of course, the quarterfinals. So we, as a nation, just need to, again, I don't ever think that this particular group is going to go on and win a World Cup, but they are definitely capable of getting to a quarterfinal. They're capable of getting to a semifinal, and they're capable of potentially making a ton of noise in the Copa America. Thanks, Tim Weah. But outside of that, I mean, this is a capable group of making a quarterfinals, and Reyna may have heard that, may have that in the back of his head of like, I need to one up my dad or something like that. You hear a couple athletes, pro athletes and college athletes say like they try to one up their dad. I mean, in sports, and whether that is like, I remember Glenn Robinson III, his dad Glenn Robinson. Glenn Robinson III talked about like, you know, he always heard about his dad. Tim Hardaway Jr. always heard about his dad, and that was kind of like their driving force of when they were at Michigan and then into the NBA of, you know, I want to make a name for myself. I don't want people to think of my dad. And I'm sure that's what Gio's been thinking. He's been taking a lot of criticism and scrutiny the last couple of months. And he's trying to write those people off and prove them wrong. And he certainly did that on Saturday. And hopefully he can do that here tonight.
Everybody loves a good redemption story, and we've seen a lot of people rally behind him. We were talking about Jude Bellingham the other day, who was giving him his props. I think the kid has a lot to show.
Every time I see Tyrese Halliburton, that's all I think now.
Yes. And his brother does too. I didn't realize he had a brother that also plays. So that's So that's exactly what he looks like. But yeah, no, Gio, it's I think it just goes to show, and this is the important thing to mention. And I remember, and we'll get into our mailbag here in a little bit, but when we started these conversations about, and we were talking about Christian Pulisic, I remember, you know, once upon a time, someone saying, well, we have Christian Pulisic and then we don't really have anybody else. You know, nobody else is really on his level. But what I will say is that it is fascinating to me to see the depth we have in certain positions. And now, like, the question becomes is like, you know, how do we make all these different pieces fit? Like, it's a good problem to have if you're Mauricio Pochettino, because you're looking at a team where you have, you know, different players that are doing different things, and Gio impressed over the weekend. Where does it all fit? I love the madness of it. Obviously, it creates a lot of talking points, and we'll get into that more coming up in segment 3. We'll dive into our mailbag and get to some of our questions, and obviously our question of the day coming up a little bit later. It's all USA Today on Inside the Game.
Are you ready to create unforgettable moments for your audience? NSN offers professional live streaming and full broadcast services tailored to your needs.
From high-quality production to exceptional coverage,
We ensure your game or event becomes a spectacle to remember. Book your next game with us today.
call 586-304-4405 to schedule your broadcast.
And let NSN bring the action to life like never before.
Welcome back in, live on the National Soccer Network, segment 3. Today, we're going to get into our mailbag. We haven't done one of these in a while. I feel like sometimes when we go like a week and some change without doing a mailbag segment, they just start to like pile up on top of each other. Oh man, what's the you ever watch Blue's Clues growing up? You're an old soul,
we
right?
Just got a letter. We just got a
letter. Yeah, wonder who it's from. Okay, so we got a lot of different people it's from, actually. Some of them good, some of them bad, some of them berating us. But now we don't know anything, and those are my favorites personally. But let's get into our mailbag a little bit because we got a pile up going on of comments that are flowing in, especially on the video that you put out about Kevin Sullivan. Over not like 70,000 views at this point. I don't know what you ran it up to, something like that. But
77.
77. But what do you got for us today, Ryan?
This one's kind of funny. This one is the one that you made yesterday about surpassing his father in international goals. D Hash says Claudio Reyna was always injured for official games on the men's national team. And whoever from our TikTok account, I didn't say this, may have been you or John, says, like father, like son, I guess.
Oh, that would be yours truly. I definitely responded to that. And I mean, his dad had over 115 caps or something like that.
112.
So, I mean, 112. Okay, so just shy of 115. But he had a lot of international caps. But I mean, that's true. I mean, he did have a couple of key injuries and key points in his career, especially when it came to the international side. And honestly, kind of like father, like son. This was something that Christian Pulisic talked about when he was interviewed about Gio Reyna, about the key injuries that he's had. We talked about the hamstring. We talked about the knee. We talked about obviously what sidelined him in September of this year, which meant obviously he couldn't participate with the team in the Gold Cup run. He was a part of the last cup they were in, Nations League, before going into the Gold Cup. But at one point or another throughout the course of his early career, and again, he's only 23 years old, recently turned 23, he's had a slew of a lot of injuries that have sidelined him. And I've mentioned this, like there's just certain athletes out there that for whatever reason they just can't get away from the nagging injuries. Not that they get these big gruesome injuries, but it's just one little thing after another. 2 games here, 3 games here, missing a month or 2 here. That's something that's really kind of stunted the growth of Gio Reyna, and we've seen that. And that's what I said yesterday. Like, there are certain things that we can hold against him. The character stuff is 100%. You can hold that against Gio Reyna. You can be like, okay, dude, you got to learn to grow from this stuff. You got to get rid of dad. Dad's holding you back. We got to get rid of all this other drama and this cancer mentality that you have. The one thing you can't hold against him, unfortunately, is injuries. He's a professional. He's doing everything he can to keep his body in it. But for a lot, at least over the course of the last few years, injuries have definitely derailed him. And sometimes some of that's genetics, man. Sometimes you get that from dad, and it seems like he might have, at least in certain situations.
Yeah, this one is back on my video about if Reyna's now in the mix in the World Cup. So this one real quick because this guy makes no sense. And his name's Ryan, so it makes total sense that he doesn't know what he's talking about. He says, I doubt it. I don't see him making it over Musa or Paredes unless Paredes comes back and stink it up. Ryan, first off, Musa's been MIA for like a year. 2, Paredes, if you're talking about Kevin Paredes of Wolfsburg, he currently has foot surgery. So I highly doubt that Paredes and Musa, well, Paredes at a minimum, takes it over Reyna. Musa, I guess you could have a case, but I have no idea where Musa has been. And clearly Ryans don't know what they're talking about. But this one we can discuss a little bit. This is coming from AK. Real question is he hungry enough? That being Gio Reyna.
I think from what he showed over the weekend, he absolutely is capable. I think he is hungry enough. By the way, Yunus Musa, he took a break this summer to rest mentally and physically after a demanding season with AC Milan. Fair enough. Spend time with his family, and I get it. He has a 3-month-old daughter. Like, I get that. I can relate to that. Well, I can't relate to that. I don't have a daughter, but you missed the Gold Cup tournament. You missed a lot of time, not with injury. You decided to do that to yourself. I think you kind of put yourself in that situation. So I don't really think Yunus Musa, to be fair, I don't really think he has much of a fighting chance. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, and maybe someone's going to fire back at that. But yeah, obviously with Paredes, that's kind of out of the question. I think Gio is 100% hungry. I don't know how you can't see that. I don't know how you can't see that in the way that he played. I don't know if you can't see that in the way that he carries himself. It seems like he has a new lease on life with like physically how he is, the way that his teammates are treating him, the way that Mauricio Pochettino talked about how much he trusted him. Listen, this is a turning of a new page in the career of Gio Reyna. Greg Berhalter is gone. He's out of the question now. If USA Soccer has made it known that they are willing to move on from what the past is when it comes to Gio, then I think that this kid has all the potential in the world to go out and do something special. I think he's playing angry. I think to go out and score a goal 4 minutes into that match, I think he was waiting for that opportunity. So absolutely, I think the kid's hungry. And I think everybody's hungry around him to see him have success as well. And I think that's why I said yesterday, I wish we could be a fly on the wall in these training sessions, right? In these things that go on behind closed doors. Because the only thing that we can come to our conclusions on is, number one, speculation, which is rarely correct, right? We're speculating about all these things, and a lot of it is speculation, right? About how he's this, that, or the other way. But, you can't rely on that. You can see what happens in the game, and from how he played, my guess is that he's hungry. But the biggest indication to me would see, how does he interact with everybody? How is his training looking? And if the weekend was any indication, I think he's 100% hungry. And I know that I've kind of been fanboying a little bit over Gio, but I genuinely think that the kid has a lot of potential still yet on this international side.
Yeah, I think Gio is 100% hungry. I mean, he was nicknamed the American Dream back in like 2019 by fellow teammate Erling Haaland, and Haaland's been doing his thing recently. So I think he's
that's a ringing endorsement from a guy of that level too.
Yeah,
we've seen that. So
yeah, I think he's hungry. I think he's been fed up, and he's mentioned in interviews, he's like, I just want to play now. He goes, I was young back then, and I shouldn't have done what I did. And again, all young people make a ton of mistakes. This one is about your Morocco video, Nate. This is coming from Web Webusa 007. I don't know what that means. Hopefully I said it right. It said the biggest problem for American soccer is that despite having 50 states, the country still struggles to produce even one top-level soccer player from each state. 50 players in total. Meanwhile, Morocco is just a single nation, but can outperform a country made up of 50 states. Well, let me tell you, buddy, we have like 10 different sports people try to be pro in. Apparently, based on some of these videos, some of these people being from Moroccan, whatever it is, they say soccer is like the thing over there. Buddy, we got hockey. Developmental is actually in our state of Michigan, by the way. The developmental program.
It is.
We have hockey.
Yeah.
We have baseball. We have basketball. We have football. And like Nate's girlfriend, we have rugby too. And we have soccer. Soccer is probably fourth on this list of what people really want to play. Just saying, we have other options. Despite us having 330 million people or whatever it is now, we have so many different options that soccer is kind of just the last thing that people... Could you imagine if Saquon Barkley or Jahmyr Gibbs is playing soccer for us? Or like a Bijan Robinson? Hell, Cooper DeJean. Imagine if the exciting Whites and Breed Blankenship and Cooper DeJean were playing soccer. Could you imagine that? We have so many athletes. We have the best athletes in the world. Soccer-wise, they're just so, everyone is just so dispersed. So, even look at the Olympics, man. Our track, swimming, equestrian probably, everything. We're so good at it.
Right.
Rowing, we're good at it. We just have so many different options. Soccer is just kind of one of those ones that's we'll get to it later.
And the fundamental problem that we always circle back to, and that is the system that is in place right now in USA Soccer. And you start to see a trend with a lot of these comments. The real talent can't afford to pay to play system in the U.S. I got a bunch of likes. Football Academy is free in Morocco. In the U.S., nothing is free. That's fair. Biggest problem for American soccer is that, despite 50 states, that was the one that you read. Something about there's a lot of other stuff about, the amount that you have to pay. And I'm not going to say that that's the entire reason. I think that's oversimplifying the issue when you're just people have to pay. So therefore, we're not going to find the real ballers out there. There are kids from families that I'm sure can afford to pay their way in the soccer sphere that can really make an impact at the next level. I don't think that is a clear-cut reason as to why we see the issues that we see. But it is a cultural problem, but I also think sometimes we're stretched a little bit too thin, because when you have the United States and you have this many states and they're all as disjointed as they are, you talk about these other countries, right? Germany, France, Italy, all these places, how even Ireland you could throw into that mix. They all have a certain distinct way of playing and a certain distinct way of going about the beautiful game that they have done for generations and generations and generations, and it is built on itself. It's a machine, is literally what is what it is. And so when you look at the United States, look at how diverse we are. Look at how many different schools of thought. Look at the fact that our manager is from Argentina and talks all the time about how he wants the game of soccer to be at that next level. He wants it to be up there with football. Newsflash, buddy, it's not going to get there. And not that there's certain people that don't want it to get there. I love talking about this game. I love covering this game. I love being around this game. But I'm real enough to realize that just because you showed up on College Game Day doesn't mean people are going to start caring about soccer in the United States.
And you showed up to Columbus, man. Come on.
Yeah, of all places, really? Like, okay. But just all that to be said, it's not going to get there, and that's okay. I think it's just we need to realize that unfortunately it's just not going to get to that level. But that's why finding the common identity in the way of playing, in the way of going about things, is really, really hard. And I think that does kind of nip us in the heel a little bit, because all these other places, these soccer powerhouses have a system, they have a machine, and it just moves. It's almost flawless, the way that they develop, the way that they play, their style of play, everything about the way that they do it is a polished product. But here in the United States, we have a lot of talented players. We have a lot of physical tools. Our coaching, our reffing, everything else is getting better. But sometimes we struggle with the identity component of it. And I think that's when it comes down to it. Even like Morocco, I'm sure all these kids have been playing together for years and years and years. So that creates a big difference in all of this. And I see it in other sports too. Like when football teams, high school teams from Canada come to play in the United States, it's like you watch them go about doing their job, and it's like, okay, they're playing football. But it's not the brand of football that we're used to seeing. They're running a Madden playbook. We're running a NFL playbook. You know what I mean? We're doing RPOs and inverted veers, and they're like, dive into the 2-hole. Okay, we got 1 yard out of it. Great. It's a different level. They got one guy up in the booth with a camcorder. We got 5 coordinators. Like it's a different kind of game, because we've been doing it for generations and generations, and it's the same way in this sport. It's not that we don't have the talent to get to that level. I think that's important for people to realize. I think the U.S. has the talent to compete with some of the biggest countries, but do we have all of those other things that lead to winning more games? That's the thing that's hard. And when you don't have the culture component, that's really hard to do.
Last one before we get into question of the day. This one's actually back to the Kevin Sullivan Panenka, which has 77K views, which
Good
I think
you,
is
man.
our most viewed video of all time.
It is. I think you doubled up the other most viewed video.
Let's go. Which we gained a new follower throughout this show, so shout out to you. I forgot your name. But again, apparently I spelled Panenka wrong. That's what some of these comments are about, is that I spelt it wrong. But this one, coming from Cowboy Perez 18, he goes, Lamine Yamal was playing for Barcelona at this age. And someone named Adam John, 7831, said, so Cowboy responds with, because bro's glazing Sullivan for being 16, scoring from there. Yamal scored bangers at this age, like in the Euro finals, for example. Look at his goals, bud. And I said, I didn't mention Lamine Yamal. I think he's a really good player, but like Sullivan did a Panenka in a U17 World Cup. And by the way, going out, this is a bold take, but Yamal is going to burn out in a couple of years. There will be something about Yamal where he burns out at, he's got to be, 18 now?
I hope you know I'm cutting this one up and putting this one on social media. Definitely cutting this one up.
Yamal is 18. He plays consistently for Barcelona and consistently for Spain. I think he's a phenomenal talent. Don't get me wrong. But I bet you by like 23, 24, he's going to have some nagging injury that constantly bugs him, or he's not going to be as good because he set such a high expectation at an early age. What he did at the Euros was phenomenal. But this kid is going to burn out by the age of 23 and 24. Woo. He'll probably move away from Barcelona, go to a Saudi league. But we've seen the game of soccer, I think, what the game of soccer does to these players, they're so overused. And what I mean by that is, even when you get an international break, you're still going back home to play for your country for 2 games, train, go back. You get a month tops off of the year before you have to go back into preseason. Your season essentially starts in mid-July to the end of mid-May. Basically, you have mid-May to mid-June for your whole break. And then you add in a couple summers of a Copa America, a Euros, a World Cup in there, you get no break. And Yamal is going to be playing meaningful minutes for Spain here next summer, so he'll be 19 years old by the time the World Cup rolls around, and he's going to have a World Cup under his belt a year. He's a talented player, but this kid is going to burn out by the age of 23, 24 with the amount of games that he's going to be playing.
Ooh, okay.
Put it on socials.
Put it out there. All right, I'm gonna put it at you. They're gonna come for you. I hope you know. But you're ready for it, man. You put yourself in the line of fire all the time. You like that. So let's get the question of the day. What do we got?
You like that? You like that? Question of the day. But before we get that, of course, Salt Athletic, an official sponsor of us here at the National Soccer Network. Use promo code NSN15 to save 15% off. Scan the QR code on your screen or visit saltathletic.com today.
Smelly.
Question of the day. Score prediction tonight for the USA versus Uruguay. I forgot we can't even put up the Salt Athletic normal thing because John's not here, so I had to give me a second.
Okay. All right. Well, if you got any smelly stuff, it does work. You guys actually tried it out. It does actually work. So the only issue is when you open it up again, then, you have the same problem. So, score predictions for tonight. Man. Okay, so I said 2-2 draw against Paraguay. I was close. I'm gonna go. I'll go with a win tonight. It's not gonna be a pretty one. I'm thinking 2-1 again for the U.S. I'm thinking something late. I'm thinking something like 87th, 88th, something dramatic. Gio Reyna plays the hero, and they lift him up on their shoulders and carry him off the pitch to a standing ovation from the American fans.
Yes.
Okay. That's my prediction tonight.
I don't have a sheet of paper, so I could go like this for like John normally does. And just like that, right on schedule, TikTok. I'm gonna go. We're gonna give up a goal for sure because we always do. I'm gonna say 1-1 draw. I'm gonna go 1-1 draw.
All right.
Reyna's gonna be involved in the goal. I'm telling you. Reyna's gonna put it on a silver platter for Haji Wright to knock it home. 1-1. By the way, no Luis Suarez. I don't even think he's on the. I think he's retired from the team. But if he was playing, God, why isn't he playing? It's in Tampa.
I don't know, man. Yeah, I know. I bet that would have been cool.
Get him over there, and then make him do something stupid that we can talk about the next day.
Yeah.
Get him another suspension. Which, dude, his top 5 suspensions that I did, that was hilarious because there's biting. It's like a little kid biting. Spitting on people, doing something that he shouldn't have done with the handball in front of goal. And then another thing that he did, being mean to a person, basically. Dude,
temper tantrum.
Grow up a little bit, Louis. Yeah. Come on, man.
Yeah.
You're a clinical striker. People remember you for your time at Liverpool. Him and Sturridge back in the day were dogs, but no one likes Suarez because we all know why.
Yeah, he's a pain in the backside is what he is. And he's a pain in the backside for Major League Soccer, but I think they enjoy having him because he creates drama. And everybody likes drama.
And that's what Inter Miami is full of.
That's what I'm saying. So it actually ends up working out to be a decent thing. But JT at the game tonight, we will try to get some video and audio from that USA-Uruguay game to put on social media. Obviously, we'll be back tomorrow to talk shop about this team, talk about Gio, talk about what the squad looked like. And then we're going to have a few months to just kind of wax poetic about what we want to see out of this team and the fact that we continue to get closer and closer to the 2026 World Cup. One last time, though, give us a follow on social media at National Soccer Network. Continue to post these clips up on social, and we hope to see you guys coming back tomorrow for episode 193. JT will be back with us when we talk about that one. Go USA. Let's hope they can get another one here tonight, and we'll talk about it all coming up tomorrow for episode 193 Inside the Game.
From the biggest matches to the hottest takes, Jonathan Turner and Nathan Wangler bring you the stories, the analysis, and the edge you won't get anywhere else. Streaming live weekdays at 9 a.m. on YouTube, Roku TV, Facebook, Twitter, and all major platforms. No filters, no fluff, just real talk, real soccer. This is Inside the Game.